Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey everyone, this is Thinking Sideways, the podcast.
Ooh.
I'm Devin, joined as always by
Joe.
And Steve.
Steve.
It's my new name.
Hey
Steve.
guys, happy birthday.
Huh?
But
It's our birthday today. We're a year old today.
not quite.
Yeah. It's been 52, isn't this our 52nd episode in 52
Yeah.
weeks?
52 weeks.
Yeah. But our
So-
anniversary's not till the 53rd.
Oh, why?
Yeah. Well, think of it this way. Your birthday is on a certain day, right?
Uh-huh.
And there's 365 days in the year.
Uh-huh.
So on day 365, it's the day before your birthday, if your birthday is day 1.
It makes sense.
All right, fine. I'm just going to trust you guys. So fine. Never mind. Happy birthday next week.
Yeah, totally. And thank you for the wishes, by the way.
You're welcome.
Where's my present?
It's about to be delivered in the form of this episode.
Okay.
And this is a juicy, enticing episode.
It's an okay one. Yeah. It's actually a listener suggestion from way back. Probably one of our first listener suggestions.
Yeah, it's an old one.
Yeah. We got it via Reddit, actually, from a user named O and 8.
Mm-hmm. 8.
O and 8.
Yeah. O ampersand 8.
No, it's
O
O
and D.
and 8. O and 8. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sorry it took me so long to get to this.
Well,
one.
actually, let's be honest. I remember we all said Joe would probably do this story, so it's really
Yeah.
Joe's fault that we haven't done this story yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, I've been a slacker. Now this one was a little too overwhelming and confusing. It's one of these ones where how to put it? It got its start, and pretty soon, like everything but the kitchen sink was in there.
Yeah, that's why I have this handy-dandy bullet point list of all the things that I think are hilarious attached to them.
So what are we talking about?
We're going to talk about the Montauk project.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, its sister project, the Philadelphia
Well,
experiment.
we're going to go ahead and gloss over the Philadelphia experiment
Yeah.
today.
But it's
Know that it's
tangentially
connected.
Involved, yes.
Apparently, it's connected.
Well,
Through the space-time continuum, it's connected.
It's connected in that it exists in the same universe, probably. But
well,
I
it could also be
figured
connected to the Istol woman and to
you know
the
what?
Jefferson Davis 8.
this could explain. This is why it's your birthday gift, Steve, is because it could actually explain
Everything?
all of the 52 mysteries we have thus far tackled. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I just figured we would gloss over the Philadelphia project, save it for a rainy day,
All right.
because it's too big for little old me to handle.
It
That
is
is a lot,
kind of
yeah.
a big, tangled mess.
Yeah. The Montauk project, I'm saying that right?
Montauk?
Montauk? Sounds
Yeah.
right to me.
Is this series of secret U.S. government projects that were conducted at, I think, as far as I can tell, it's the same place. It's Camp Hero, which was renamed the Montauk Air Force Station, right? Camp Hero became...
No, the other way around. I think that there was a Montauk Air Force Station, and then they donated the land to the county or something.
I thought...
To Nassau County, and then they turned it into a park.
Right, but Camp Hero was during the World Wars. It was an army base.
Yeah, it was.
And then it became an Air Force base. Then they donated it to be a state park.
Right.
Okay, I'll buy that.
It's in Montauk, Long Island. Apparently, it existed for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research into time travel.
Yeah.
Or...
don't forget mind control and mind reading.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's psychological warfare, kind of, right? Or alternately, there was a Stargate there, and Nikola Tesla and some aliens probably made it.
Entirely possible.
I'm laughing at that, but we'll talk about it in a minute.
Yes.
Tesla does have a role in this.
So I'm going to tell you guys a little story.
Okay.
Hop in the not so Wayback Machine. We're not going to hop in the Wayback Machine.
Nah.
We just took it out last week. We got to.
Yeah, it's in the shop.
Can't overdo that.
So in 1945, American troops liberated France. Right? That's true. We know that. That's not really a conspiracy. Apparently, at the same time, some troops discovered a train full of Nazi gold that was stopped in a tunnel. They notified the proper authorities, who arrived on the scene, took the gold, and then killed all the soldiers because dead men tell no tales.
And I couldn't. So were these the soldiers that discovered it that were U.S. soldiers or soldiers that were already on the train? Because
No,
I thought I heard
the
it was
ones-
Nazi soldiers that they killed.
Oh, I understood it that
I
it
thought
was.
they were Allied soldiers that they
Yeah.
killed.
That's why I'm asking, because I remember thinking I read that it was they killed all the Nazi soldiers.
Well, I think they probably just killed everyone.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if there were Nazi soldiers, certainly they killed them. But I'm given to understand they also killed the Allied soldiers.
This is a release of Call of Duty, basically, is what you're telling me right here.
Yeah.
One man survives.
You got to kill everybody and then teabag them.
So the moral of the story is, if you found a trainload of gold, you just like hide it and don't tell anybody. You know.
You national secret. Oh my gosh, what's that?
National treasure.
Yeah, you national treasure it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Okay.
Okay. Also, at the same time, during the crumbling Reich, right? That's how you say that word.
Oh yeah.
The Third Reich?
The Third Reich.
Reich.
I just, you know what? Sometimes I can't say words. It's fine. We know this. Americans were helping German scientists flee the country, which we also recognize as probably being true or absolutely being true.
And I don't know how many we got out before the war's end, but we certainly grabbed a bunch of them after the war was over too.
Can I interrupt something?
Fine.
All right, because we're talking about this
Operation
starts-
Paperclip.
Paperclip, and
Yep.
we're talking about the Germans a little bit here. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that some of the weird German experiments are why we took these guys.
Yeah.
So did you guys see the article that's come out recently about Hitler and Himmler and the awesome stuff that they wanted to do, making their own Jurassic Park?
No, what?
I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah, it's so funny, and evidently this is quote unquote true papers that have been discovered. Is that to help show that the German lineage had been there, was always the strong people. What they were going to do is they were going to backwards engineer some it's a bull or some kind of cow that was 7 feet tall that was from the Jurassic period, and release it into the wilds of Poland so that these strong men of the Reich could hunt them. Because that's right up there with the crazy stuff that we're going to talk about that these guys were in.
I guess I feel like if I had a lot of money and was planning on taking over the world, I would probably build a Jurassic Park.
I think they ought to build a real Jurassic Park.
I think they
that'd
probably
be pretty
should.
cool.
We saw how well that worked in film number 1 through 4.
Well,
But,
obviously we wouldn't
that's
be
obviously
dummies.
The movies aren't realistic.
Anyways, back to our story.
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Sorry. Operation Paperclip.
So
Yeah.
Operation Paperclip.
And lots of these scientists were brought back to America and teamed up with scientists who'd worked on the Philadelphia experiment, given the Nazi gold that we were just talking about,
Why were they given the Nazi gold?
and a research facility that was built underground, and that became the Montauk Project.
yeah, built in a 12-story underground complex.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
what they-
talk about
I-
what they built under there in a minute.
Yeah, I know.
Because it turns out, apparently, the government, though they have given all of the land to the Forest Service, they still own the land below the radar unit that sits on top of
Yeah.
the Montauk Project.
Yeah.
Apparently.
That's true, but I think what that meant really is that they kept the mineral rights just in case, gold was discovered or something like that. And I'm not talking Nazi gold. But,
Gold were discovered.
yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. But why did they give them the Nazi gold?
Oh, to pay them and to fund their research?
But why didn't they just get some money from the treasury?
Well, because it was this Nazi gold.
It
I mean,
was
you have
free
to.
gold.
Nazis like Nazi gold?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you have to launder it somehow. You can't just go to the bank and say, "Hey, here's all this Nazi gold. We're gonna keep it."
Melt it down.
I mean, I guess you probably could. You are the U.S. government.
It's a little easier just to melt it down.
That's probably
a
true.
little easier when
I don't
they're
know.
done.
It's a good question. I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
Sorry. I can keep making things up if you want.
Nah.
That's fine.
No?
That's
We'll
cool.
move on. Okay.
Okay.
The base is all the way at the end of this island.
Yeah, the east end of Long Island.
Yeah. For people who live on Long Island, you follow Route 27. I don't know what that means.
It's a point. It's kind of
Yeah.
a spit of land.
It's kind of, yeah, if you look at Google Maps, the highway goes out on the south side of the island, and then Montauk Point is like there's this little blob at the very, very end. So it's wide, then it narrows down to this very narrow, skinny little passageway, and it widens out again, and that's where Camp Hero and all that other stuff is.
Yeah, so in World War II, it was called Camp Hero, and it was used for coastal defense, had like really big guns.
Well, it's got the big radar station on it. Is
Well,
what
now.
It was. Oh, did they have guns on it?
They had large
okay.
guns and bunkers, and then that was the Army gave the base to the Air Force, and it became known as the Montauk Air Force Station, and they built this big radar. If you Google Montauk Project, and actually we'll put up some pictures on the website too, that huge radar thing is what we're talking about. Yeah. Apparently it was used as an actual radar station.
Briefly until it became
in
obsolete.
the Cold War.
And what kind of, do you remember what kind of radar it is? It starts with an S.
I thought it was an AH-356 or something like that. I really can't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a technology that as soon as they built it was out of date and was no longer worth anything.
Yeah, it was like I got the chance to go on board an old 50s era submarine that was called the Sailfish. And it was built as a radar picket boat because radars weren't small enough to put on planes that could land on aircraft carriers. But the aircraft carriers needed radar coverage, so they built a series of submarines that had these enormous sails and these retractable radar dishes and everything, so they could like be a distance out with their radars on, monitoring for incoming enemy planes and everything. And then before I don't think they even did much time in service, and then they became obsolete. And so, what do we do with this thing? Well, I guess we'll just turn it into a regular submarine with a really huge, huge sail on it. So that's what they did.
For fun.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Because we can.
No sense throwing it away.
Yeah, according to the legend, I guess, the base lost its funding in the 1960s because the radar technology became obsolete. Yeah. But apparently it was open until 1983.
Because they were doing experiments.
I guess. And as Joe previously stated, it's a New York State park now.
Yeah.
But the radar equipment is still intact and standing.
You can actually see it on Google Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, yeah.
Well, and people use it rather than the lighthouse that's on Montauk Point. They use the radar as kind of a daytime reference point because it's easier to see than a lighthouse.
Yeah.
It's big.
So it's really big. And, as I said before, the story is that they actually built bunkers below it, like built down, and that the government retains the rights to that. Whether it's actually not improved down there and it's minerals or what have you, apparently the U.S. government still owns whatever's below. So apparently, if in fact there is something below there, it's the base itself and the radar was actually a cover-up for what was below. Apparently there were as many as 12 stories deep. I don't know, what do you call it when it's not
levels?
Levels
deep.
Deep.
Levels, I guess. Yeah.
Some people say that it's like really, really documented that there's a subterranean city beneath the base that's still being used today by secret branches of the military. People say that the radar equipment was built as a cover-up, that the military could conduct experiments in time travel and mind control, and that the electronics equipment was a cover for that. People also say that there's a 50-foot tall pure titanium pyramid under there, so I guess we'll take what people say with a little bit of a grain of salt.
You think so?
Why a titanium pyramid?
I don't know. I was thinking like it would make more sense to say it was gold, and then that's what they used the Nazi gold for. But
trainload of Nazi gold to make a pretty big pyramid.
Yeah, but I don't know why pure titanium, because it conducts space-time antimatter better. I don't know.
Radio frequency waves, as somebody said.
Yeah.
I got to say, if you're going to build a 12-level underground complex, that seems like a really inappropriate place to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty close to the water.
Whereas the water table is pretty close to the surface there. Yeah. It just seems like there's a lot easier places to build.
I agree.
I mean, it's conceivable, but you'd think they'd go like hollow out a mountain or something like that, or maybe pick a dormant volcano and build their lair in there.
Maybe they needed the seawater.
Yeah, good point.
Maybe.
Oh, I want to point something out too. And
Sure.
I'm ashamed of all the people out there that have gone over this story so many times for not noticing this obvious thing. But only 20 miles away to the northwest is Groton, Connecticut, home of a U.S. submarine base. And it's entirely possible they were smuggling Nazi gold, scientists, and everything else via submarine across the Long Island Sound to a secret subterranean submarine base underneath the complex.
Oh.
Yeah.
That
Wait,
it's
what?
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah.
I get it. Actually, that's a really
I
with the
know.
breakthrough theory. That's a really
absolutely.
good theory.
Oh, absolutely, totally. But because when you think about it, why would they pick this particular spot? It's in such a populous area.
Mm-hmm.
Even though for the area, it's somewhat deserted, but it's such a populous area. You know, why did they go out somewhere in New Mexico, in the middle of the desert somewhere?
Mm-hmm,
Well, think about it. What's 20 miles away? Mm-hmm. A submarine base. I know it makes no sense. But.
No, actually, I mean, it makes more sense than a lot of stuff we're going to talk about tonight.
Well,
so.
I think that when you're talking about 12-level underground complexes, I think a secret subterranean submarine base is kind of a necessary thing. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting. So here's the story, kind of. I'm sorry. Here's the theory, the kind of overarching theory of what happened here, or what was happening here. I don't know. There's a lot of these. This is the one that I like the most. I feel like there's a lot here.
So you're going to lead with your favorite and then just trail down from there? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
I
gonna
mean,
do?
the rest of them are just
crappy
kind
ones.
of like weird assertions. Like nobody has spent very much time to kind of give anecdotal evidence or anything like that.
The rest of them are assertions. This one isn't.
Well, okay, this one is too, but there's anecdotal evidence that goes with it. Whereas the other ones I can bullet point down.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So, on or about August 12th, 1983, all credible stories start with on or about. Just throw that out there. A porthole in time, quote unquote, was created which allowed researchers to travel anywhere in space or time. This was developed into a stable, quote, time tunnel. Because of this...
Which went to a single point in the past.
Well, no. They could kind of control it, maybe. It's unclear. There are two kind of variations on what happened specifically because of this. In the first instance, they both kind of have the same thing to kind of have, well, let's just start talking about this.
Okay.
All right.
So because of this time tunnel...
Oh, by the way, was this a really long tunnel? I mean, did you need like a golf cart to get down it?
Joe, will you stop it?
Sorry.
Because of this time tunnel, either the time travel project at Montauk interlocked in hyperspace with the original Philadelphia experiment in 1943. The story tends to go thusly. The USS Eldridge, that was in the Philadelphia experiment, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know, was drawn into hyperspace and trapped there. Two men, Al, how do you say his last name?
Bielek, I think.
Bielek and Duncan Cameron both claim to have leaped from the deck of the USS Eldridge while it was in hyperspace and ended up, after a period of severe disorientation, at Camp Hero in the year 1983 at the Montauk Project. They claim to have met John von Neumann. That's how you would say that, right? That's how I say that.
Or John von Neumann.
Von Neumann.
Von. He's a physicist and mathematician. He died in 1957.
But they met him in 1983.
Met him in 1983. Just calm down.
Yeah,
He apparently, that scientist, von Neumann, also was apparently connected to the Philadelphia experiment. So the claim is that they actually, in Montauk, the time tunnel opened up into the Philadelphia experiment. Maybe. Apparently, the origin of the Montauk project dates also to 1943, when radar invisibility was being researched aboard the USS Eldridge. I don't know. It's kind of this modge podge of story that I can't totally tell.
Here's the easy way to think about the Philadelphia experiment.
Yes.
They wanted to figure out how to make a ship invisible to radar. Mm-hmm. They did some kooky science, and some kids in a van got involved. Okay, no, that part's not real.
No.
They have a dog.
But they accidentally made the ship disappear for a couple of moments. It completely went invisible to the naked eye and radar. It traveled through time, and then it zipped back to where it came from. And people were dead because they had fused with the ship or were completely loony.
Yeah, mentally unfit.
That's the simple Cliff Notes version of the Philadelphia experiment.
Sure. So apparently, where the ship ended up was the Montauk project. Apparently,
So that would explain a lot, though. So when it disappears, that's because the Montauk thing is causing it to go like whoop.
And I can't decide if the theory is that the Philadelphia experiment caused the time tunnel opening, or if the Montauk experiment caused the USS Eldridge to disappear.
But somehow they made it up that 40-year bridge.
Yeah, apparently.
And then what's his name jumped off the ship and wound up in Montauk.
Yeah, what's his name? Al
and Duncan.
Bielek and Duncan Cameron.
Yeah.
And I can't tell. You guys said that you watched some interviews with him. Is that true?
I listened to part of an interview with Al Bielek. Is that how we're saying his name?
I guess.
Go for Bielek,
Yeah.
Bielek, okay. And
I couldn't totally tell if he claimed to have been part of the Philadelphia experiment in 1943.
He did. It's really weird. He claims that he was on that ship in 43.
And then he jumped off in Montauk.
And he jumped off while it was traveling through hyperspace. So he looked at his buddy Richard Dean Anderson and said, "I'm out of here," and jumped out while he was in the wormhole. And he traveled in time. He says he ended up in the year 2300 and something and was there for a while. And then he ended up in the year 2800 and something and lived there for a while. Both times having no recollection of who he was at first, and then eventually figuring it out, and then somehow traveling back in time and ending up in 1983.
I see. And then when he was in, say, the year 2800, he lived there for a while?
Yeah, he was a tour guide.
He was a tour guide?
He was a tour guide because they had cities that were 22 or 2,300 stories tall. And they had anti-gravity technology, and they had computers that ran the government, and as he said, they were a socialist society. There's a lot of weird stuff in his stuff. Anybody who wants to listen to it, there's a bunch of his interviews online. I didn't listen to all of them, but it's about 3 hours of interviews. There's a couple of them that are kind of compiled. It's literally a 3-hour video that you can just listen to, and most of it's just audio. But I'm not going to say that he's a kook or a loon or anything like that, but he makes some pretty fantastic claims, and most of his stories are really, really simple. Like he says, well, then they had train systems, except their train cars were wider than ours. Okay, it's a train. Okay, well, what's so futuristic about a train? I mean, it's some weird stuff, very simple. I almost wonder if he, accidentally did LSD or something. It's just
accidentally.
It sounds like, the thing about it is like, and this is why he's full of it, is because he traveled to the future. And think about this. I mean, if somebody from, say, 200 years ago transported to our time, he would see things that would have been inconceivable in his time. Not just he wouldn't have just seen things that would have been an improvement. He wouldn't have seen a donkey on steroids and a super turbocharged steam locomotive. He would see things like airplanes and iPads, and the internet. He would see stuff that his society could not have conceived of. Al Bielek, in all of his stories, not a single thing that he saw so many centuries in the future, not a single thing that he saw is something that doesn't already exist in our society today. Which tells us that either all human creativity basically disappeared about right about now, or that the guy is just basically full of it.
Well, and he also makes the jump that the human world population was kind of decimated at some point in the near future in some war, and
that seems like the sort of thing you would get some serious details on.
Well, and do you remember the Georgia Guidestones?
Yeah,
he talks about the New World Order, and that in the year 2800, the planet was at, what was it, 500,000 or 500 million? 500 million people. They were keeping the population right around that number. So it's...
When did he do these interviews? I should just go watch them.
They're several years ago. It was really hard. I thought it was from 2000.
He's dead, though, right?
Yeah, he is.
Like 2010, right? Or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. So his interview was... he was talking about the internet, and it was strange because I swore I heard the internet at one point they said 2012. But then he would start talking about the early 2000s, so I couldn't tell exactly when the interview I listened to was. But it just was very, very close to what modern technology was. And I agree with Joe. They weren't revelations. They weren't amazing. You know, they had a sidewalk where you stood on it and just jetted you around town, like the thing at the airport.
And like the thing that Isaac Asimov was writing, and had in some of his robot novels that he wrote in the 1960s.
Do you remember I borrowed the Ringworld series from you?
Larry Niven.
Larry Niven. And if anybody hasn't read Ringworld or Larry Niven, they're good books. They're sci-fi.
Oh, yeah, they're classics.
But they were written before a lot of technology came out. And so the technology that he forecasted was very simple advances. And that's what this guy was talking about, was things that were very simple advances, but they were 600 or 800 years in the future. So,
And also, you know, if the world is only 500 million people, then why do you need cities that are like 2,400 stories tall?
Yeah, well, they had anti-gravity and they could just float all over the planet and live wherever they wanted in that city.
That's what it was.
So you know what? This week we're in Rio. Next week we're in the Antarctic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They have ships like that you can live on.
Yeah.
They do.
They do. So, okay, that sidebar, I guess.
Well, we've gone off. I think we bashed Al enough.
We have. So either this whole like fusion with the Philadelphia project or aliens. I guess they're not mutually exclusive. They could have both happened. But aliens, apparently there was some contact with aliens that happened at the Montauk project through this time tunnel, this stable time tunnel. There were some underground tunnels with abandoned cultural archives that were explored on Mars using the technique where apparently some kind of Martians had once lived thousands and thousands of years earlier. And there was contact made with the aliens through the time tunnel, I guess, that gave them some kind of advanced technologies to enhance the Montauk project.
So, but they were able to actually do the initial time tunnel without alien technology.
I guess.
They stumbled upon it.
And then the time tunnel also opened into a space tunnel that also took us to Mars. I think it's one thing for me to make the leap of, hey, this time tunnel opened up and it opened up to some place that's like pretty close, just like, 40 years ago or whatever. It's another to say, hey, this time tunnel opened up and it opened up 5,000 years in the future on Mars. I don't know how those things work, but
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing about it is like the universe is a huge place, and actually inhabitable places that exist are an infinitesimally small portion of the universe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if it goes up to a random place, it's probably just going to be empty space. Or the inside of a planet, or the inside of a star.
Yeah, those all seem like really dangerous things too, right? Every time you hear about a time tunnel opening up, it happens to be in a place that isn't the vacuum of space that sucks the entire world through this time tunnel into a black hole, right? I mean, that seems rather convenient to me.
Well, they did that on Stargate once.
That's true.
They had to frantically shut down the Stargate, but that happened on Stargate, which, by the way, I'm going to go back to Stargate every time you say time tunnel, because it sounds like it.
So they were just like channel surfing, and they came to this one that was a
Yeah.
black hole or something.
Yeah, they went to this planet, and it had the ring, and that planet was being sucked into a black hole, and the guys that went out there were all being spaghettification. Is that what it's called when you get sucked into a black hole because you're stretched out?
Let's go with that.
And time slows down, and so they were watching everybody slow down and being spaghettified. They had to quickly shut it down so the gravity didn't suck the world through the through the gate.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just telling you right now.
No,
I'm going
that's
to do
fine.
that every time I can.
Apparently, this allowed a broader access to hyperspace, and also allowed a language of hyperspace to be developed. I just don't even...
Is that kind of like Esperanto?
I was about to say, what does that language sound like?
Language of
Or is that like a mathematical language?
It's unclear. I have to be honest. It may be a language of mathematics. I did not try to look it up. I gotta be honest with you.
I don't know that we could, actually.
So there's some other stuff that's really interesting, and this is kind of my bullet point list. The first interesting fact connected to the Montauk project, other than the ones that we've already talked about, are that apparently Nikola Tesla faked his death in a conspiracy and was the chief director of operations at the Montauk project, and was through the 80s, which would make him like 120
Something like that, yeah.
years old. So that seems really true.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, but he was when he died. I think he was in his 80s, like his early 80s.
Uh-huh.
When he died, right? And he, I've seen pictures of him not long before his death, and he didn't look that hot. He didn't look so good.
No, he did not.
And reportedly, he was getting a little bit flaky in the head in his old age, as most of us do.
Yeah, especially when you play with electricity as much as he did.
Yeah. So I'm not sure he would have been much use to the project.
However happy I would be that Nikola Tesla was still alive today.
Oh, yeah.
I would be so happy.
Well, haven't you watched Sanctuary? He's a vampire. He's totally alive. You've never seen that show? Oh, I'm totally going off on random TV shows today, aren't I?
Never even heard of this show.
Sanctuary ran for like 3 years, but Nikola Tesla was a vampire.
I guess I'll go watch that then.
It's
I'm gonna
it's
just
pretty
binge
rad.
watch it tonight.
He's a super smart guy.
Yeah. Thomas Edison is another vampire. That'd be great.
No, Edison was a vampire. He was just a jerk.
Yeah. I heard he was kind of a jerk.
He really was.
Okay, next little tidbit of conspiracy. There are reports from the 1970s that surveillance showed, quote, the formation of a large bubble of time-space centered upon the site, unquote, which is apparently proof of the time tunnel. Apparently there was pictorial proof of that, which conveniently was burgled from the only person who had it, which seems like a normal thing for satellite surveillance.
Well, yeah, that guy was. I remember that guy. I can't remember his name now, but apparently
He was a reporter, right?
Yeah,
No, he was a Russian.
Yeah, he was a defector from Russia.
Oh, he was
apparently
interviewed by a
had
reporter.
access-
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had access to satellite surveillance
And
technology.
he was like Russian and South American. He was some weird
Yeah,
combination.
Spanish-Russian or something like that,
Spanish-Russian, something like that. And as soon as he spilled the beans, then they broke into his
burgled
apartment
his
and
hotel room.
only stole the papers.
Yeah, I know. No, they could have like messed the place up and stole his TV too, just to cover up.
Yeah, but no,
Well,
just the
I
papers.
seriously would like to know from.
Why would
any
you steal the
vantage point.
TV? You know how heavy a 1970s TV
That's a good
is?
point. Well,
True.
They were only about this big. So, but anyway, I really want to know what a bubble of space-time looks like.
I would like to know that too.
Because, how does it look any different from the space-time
Yeah.
that we exist in right now?
I don't know, maybe it bows out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
It's like a
everything
soap
looks
bubble.
super spaghettified.
Cool refractions? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That I can't answer. I have not seen that on TV yet.
Yeah. Apparently, also at the Montauk Project, people had their psychic abilities enhanced already. Amazing theory. That allowed them to materialize objects out of thin air.
Yeah. Well,
They could just think a thing into existence.
Yeah, I guess they couldn't all do that, but some of them were so incredibly advanced and powerful that they could actually and one of them like materialize a Bigfoot out of thin air.
A
The
Yeti.
Yeti.
And it went berserker
Yeah.
and started it destroyed like 3 levels, and they had to be,
They had to shoot it.
yeah.
Did you hear the theory of why the Yeti was created?
No.
Or was brought in?
No.
Oh, this is way down the rabbit hole.
Gold? It's gold?
It's absolute
It's
gold.
Nazi gold?
I can't remember the name of the guy that supposedly had his psychic abilities enhanced, and of course, by having those abilities enhanced, he had other issues like emotional issues created. But he and some other people at that time, I think it was in the 80s, they said, because it shut down in 83, is that right? Said that they realized that the project had gotten out of control. And so what they did is to shut it down. When he was in, they had a mind chair where it was an alien chair that
Like
would
Professor
That
X.
enhanced
Okay.
your powers. Yeah.
Yep, which is also a Stargate phenomena. He sat in it and he thought of the worst monster he could, and he thought of a 7-foot Yeti which went through and rampaged through the complex and ripped the place asunder, doing so much damage that the project had to be shut down, and they saved our timeline.
I
Nice.
I was kind of hoping that you were going to tell me it's like from Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah,
With
the marshmallow.
with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, where they were like, "Okay, think of anything you want," and he's like, "Don't think of a Yeti. Don't think of a Yeti. Don't think of a Yeti. Ah, crap! I thought of a Yeti." That was my hope.
No.
Apparently, also at the Montauk Project, they put microchips, embedded them in the workers' brains to control the people who worked there.
Yeah, okay.
Or to make them forget that they worked there, or
Totally makes sense.
whatever. Also, apparently, the Montauk Project is where they train the men in black
Or they
to
trained it
quote.
before it shut down.
Yeah.
Well,
to
maybe it's
quote,
still open.
it
Who
might
knows?
be. So
Yeah.
that's another part of it, right? They apparently, the men in black were developed to quote confuse and frighten the public. Also, the Montauk Project, where they staged the moon landing, or possibly they tunneled to the future with their time tunnel to get technology from the aliens, or they tunneled to a time when people could go to the moon and just did it then.
Wait a minute. Wait. I have seen most of these things here, but you're telling me that the Montauk Project is responsible for either A, making the moon landing, or B, faking it?
Yeah.
Both of those possibilities?
One or
Yeah.
the other, I guess.
Yeah, that potentially they faked it there, right? They staged it there. Or this time tunnel existed and they got the alien technology that enabled them to actually go to the moon.
But you know that.
But either way, it wasn't just like United States ingenuity that let us go to the moon.
Yeah, the thing about it is there's no evidence of any alien technology in the Apollo program. I mean, it's
Are you kidding me? Velcro.
Oh, good point. Yeah, yeah, I suppose so. Okay, yeah, you win. But
Okay.
seriously, there's no need for alien technology there. But I like the Civil War one.
Yeah. Apparently, also, one of the things they did with this time tunnel was they went back because apparently the first time we did the Civil War, it went the wrong way, so they fixed the outcome of the Civil War.
So the South won. The world was so terrible that the Confederate, is that the South?
Confederacy.
The Confederacy's version realized it was terrible, made their own Montauk Project to send people back to make sure the Confederacy lost the second time around?
I guess. I don't know. Maybe it was people who were, like still fighting for the North. Not still, but there are people who still think that the Confederacy should have won, right? In 2014.
Yeah.
So maybe it was obviously the smarter people.
I was going to say, because most of the people who think that, they fly the flag, they drive the truck, they drink the beer, and once a year they go to the reenactment.
Right.
They don't build quantum machines in their garage.
I have a lot
of
of choice derogatory things to say.
Yeah, and that's
about
why
that.
I'm avoiding it.
You're getting it wrong. I mean, it wouldn't be the Southerners if the South had won the war.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that the Northerners would have said, wow, this turned out bad. Let's create a lot of really advanced technology and go back and fix it.
But the thing about that
instead of flying the flag and going to the reenactment once a year.
But the thing about it is that if the U.S. had split, there's a couple of different outcomes. One is that things might have turned out better or just perfectly okay. The South would go do their thing, we'd do our thing. And so, it wouldn't be seen. We see it from this perspective of us now as the South winning as being a hideous thing. But maybe as far as the North goes, people living in the North, it would have been okay. And so
the only thing is slavery. Let's throw that out there.
Oh, slavery. Slavery was going to go the way of the dodo. Industrialization did away with slavery anyway. It would have gone. But,
He's got a point.
That's true.
Yeah, slavery would no longer be existing in the 20th century. On the other hand, the United States, if it were split up, might not have ever become a real world power and might not have even participated in World War II.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
It's a big question.
No one knows what all these unknowable, noble things are.
It's true. So more things that happened at the Montauk Project.
This one's
The
interesting.
Jersey Devil was created there.
Now,
we haven't tackled the Jersey Devil yet.
Jersey Devil?
What is the Jersey Devil is the good question.
Yeah.
And that's, stay
That's totally the
tuned.
question. What is the
Next
Jersey
week-
Devil?
No, the Jersey Devil is a cryptozoology creature.
Like a chimera kind of thing.
Well, no, it could be a Bigfoot. It could be something like the Tasmanian Devil.
It could
of
be
New
a
Jersey.
chupacabra.
It could be a chupacabra. It could be a lot of things.
Could be a Batman guy.
It could be the situation.
This is the thing. Again, I'm sure we'll do a show on this.
Yeah, we probably will.
Also, apparently, AIDS was manufactured here. Because that's a thing.
Yeah.
Steve is looking at me like I am the person who believes this theory.
Yeah, I know. But the whole idea that
I just don't even know what to say.
The whole idea that AIDS was manufactured, when if you really want a new hideous disease to come along, all you got to do is just sort of sit back, drink a beer, and wait for sub-Saharan Africa to crank a new one out. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, look at, say, for example, Ebola.
Yeah, but the problem, right? Okay, so the thing, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to do this. But the thing is that like Ebola, you could catch as a rich person just as easily as you could catch as like as a poor person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an airborne illness, right?
Yeah.
It's whatever. It's communicable in other ways other than like physically having
It's in the air.
contact. Yeah.
It's airborne, yes.
Right. So the benefit of AIDS, right, ostensibly, if you were going to manufacture something, is that you would just say, I will only have contact with people I 100% know do not have this, and then I will never get it.
Oh.
So I guess
Unless you get a blood transfusion or something like that. But
they clean that stuff
they
out
clean
now.
that up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Now,
Now.
not then, because
At
there
the
might be some
beginning.
riffraff. You might want to just let it leak. No, I'm gonna let that go.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Anyways, just as a so I guess that's my like last big one. The whole thing is still standing. That's my last theory of things that happened there.
Is the AIDS thing?
Is the AIDS thing.
Oh, I thought it was your which was my favorite phrase of this is how we're just gonna let that go.
We're just going.
Yes, we're just gonna let that.
So the whole thing, the radar and the building that it's on top of, and ostensibly the 50-foot titanium pyramid below are still there.
Yeah. And the soldiers with the guns threatening
So
people.
that's exactly the segue, right? Is that apparently this base is abandoned. It's just part of the state park in New York. But ostensibly, people say that civilians visiting the park are routinely threatened by armed government agents that are ordering them to not venture into certain areas of the park. Apparently, electrical workers report having installed a power station capable of using gigawatts of energy, like enough to power a city. And apparently, every once in a while, strange lights or shapes are seen on the sky overhead.
I see those anywhere.
Well, and here's something that's weird. I wanted to kind of get an idea of what the place looked like today, so I went on Google Maps and checked it out, and I was looking at the street map, no big deal, and then I wanted to try and figure out where the satellite was, or the radar dish, so I turned it on to satellite view, and then thought, well, I'm gonna pull a Joe, and I'm just gonna cruise around the streets and check everything
Street
out.
View. Yeah.
Well,
Except you can't.
because every time you come around the corner, there's a couple of guys with AR-15s telling Mr. Google car to stop. And they're pointing the guns
No.
out.
You know how when you're in Google Maps today and you go and what do they call the little guy that you drop on the map?
Yeah, the little gold guy.
Yeah, whatever he is, he's got a name. I can't think of it. Whenever you get the map to come up to show where he'll go, all the roads around Camp Hero, they all stop on the street view at a pretty significant distance away from the main center of the installation.
Is it the border of the state park? Like, is it not able to go into the state park at all?
Well, you go down a road, because I did. I went to a number of them. And you go down the road, and then there's a gate, and there's a giant sign which you can't read because of Google
blur it
has
out.
fuzzed it out.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
But there's a gate, and then I mean there's a number of smaller roads that look like they feed in off of the edges, and I went over to those, and every one of them it's the same thing. The Google truck stopped. Seems like these gates, if it's a park, would be open to drive down at some point, but Google never managed to get in there, and every time they fuzz out everything that is on there. You know how when you're in the street view, it does the little window where you can zoom in on stuff? Like, let's say you're looking at a house and you want to zoom on the house. When you look at that entire area, that little zoom window is gone in the street view. It's not till you do a 180 and you're looking away that it comes back. So it's a little weird that you can't even zoom into any of it, which would add a little credence to this theory of, well, maybe something's still going on.
Yeah,
but the thing about it is if they still got stuff going on, then why go to the hassle of having, like guys sneaking around the woods with guns when you can just keep it in your own possession, not turn it over to the public, not have the public walking around. Still have your fences and armed guards saying, "Hey, military base, you can't come in." And there's nothing suspicious about that. There's
But you
military
have to
bases
keep.
everywhere.
You've got to do some kind of upkeep, and if you give it to the state
Ah, there you
and
go.
say, "The state, this is your park. You've got to maintain it. But by the way, keep your little cretins out of this area, and we'll just have a little contingent walking around patrolling it to keep people away because people get on foot and they wander around. They have no idea, so they're scurrying all. They're making sure everybody scurries away from it."
I guess my other thing for the keeping it a base would be exactly what you were saying earlier with the populated area thing, where I think, when they initially made Camp Hero, Long Island was not nearly as populated as it is now. So keeping something secret and operational as a publicized Air Force base is much harder. It'd be like trying to do something on the Air Force base, or I guess it's the Air Force Reserve or whatever, that's, down by the Portland airport. You drive right past it, and it's kind of a secluded area, but if there was weird stuff going on, people would know, just because people kind of live around. I guess there's some kind of, I see both arguments.
I still think if you're that paranoid about secrecy, just move out to the desert somewhere out west.
But that's the problem, is that there's all kinds of installations that were out in the middle of nowhere, were built up. You know about the here in Portland, out on the east side, there's in Beaverton, or west side in Beaverton, there's the monkey farm. You know about the monkey farm.
Yeah.
There's
the what?
The monkey farm. There's this place that is a primate facility. And it is in the middle of Beaverton, which folks who aren't from here don't know is a very populated, very urbanized area. And there's a lot of people driving around and living in that area. And I worked on a campus that was directly next to it. I mean, property lines intersected, and I'd be in the parking lot, and you could hear the monkeys.
Was it the OHSU facility?
I don't think it is. It might be. But the point is, they built that thing a long time ago and kept adding on to it. So they sunk a lot of money into infrastructure to build this facility, and they let's just say they're doing nefarious things, because we would hear monkeys yelling all the time.
Well...
And then they're doing strange things there. Well, you can't just pick that all up and move, because that's really expensive.
Yeah.
So instead, you just say it's one thing while you do another.
Yeah,
you can do that, but at the time they started this facility, I mean, New York and like just north of there is Connecticut, another very populous place. It was already very, very densely populated. Back in the 40s or the 70s or whenever they started this.
Sure.
So, I mean, they didn't have to invest a dime in it. They could have just gone somewhere else.
But it was also, I remember in reading, they went there because it was right on the coast. So it was easy to bring everything in by boat, load it up, and haul it however far, a couple of miles at the most, onto the
Not even
camp.
that far. No.
And so it's easy. It's
via
easy.
secret submarine.
Yeah.
Your secret submarine
The
base.
secret submarine base, because frankly, I've looked that end of the island over fairly carefully, and I saw nothing resembling wharves or docks or anything like that. So, yeah, it's going to have to be the secret submarine base.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
So that's the story of
No. This is one we're actually going to have to postpone solving this one. I'm sure we have at least several listeners in New York. And so what would
Do not suggest something that is going to get people arrested, Joe.
Please.
It won't get them arrested.
Please.
Well, if this is all true, it's not going to get them arrested. It's going to get them shot. So get your asses out there. If you can, if you rent like one of those little Kubota things, those diggers, and like those little earth mover things, and just do some digging out there.
You know what is actually a really huge fine?
Yeah.
Digging up state parks.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty illegal.
Okay.
Even just digging in a state park. I mean, it's one thing if there is a secret base there. It's even if there's not, it's a pretty hefty fine.
I would rather have a crew of LARPers dress up as SG-1 crew and go running through the park and see if they can blend in and get into the site than have them start digging up so that if they can see, they can find the first level of the underground base.
I just want to see what the signs say. the Google
Yeah.
signs that are blurred out. I have a feeling it's nothing nefarious. I'm sure
I think it's probably
just like,
innocuous.
hey, you
probably
can't
says-
drive past here. Like, no
Probably
vehicular traffic past this point.
It's a huge
probably
sign with
says
it looks like a
state-
lot of
you know,
text on it.
Probably
though.
says state park, and here's all our many, many rules and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, it's probably a giant rule list.
All of our state parks are like that. There's all kinds of sign and tons of rules and all
I
kinds
just
of
wanna
warnings
know.
and everything else.
So, what do you guys? What's your favorite thing that might have or may not have happened at the Montauk?
The favorite theory
project.
or what?
Yeah, I guess I'm not willing to call these theories necessarily. Just like
Suppositions?
things that might have happened there. What's your favorite thing that might have happened there?
I really do like the guys that could make things materialize, and the guy makes the Yeti pop out of nowhere, and he tears the place apart.
Pretty good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Steve?
Okay, are we going for favorite for fun or favorite for believable?
Well, let's do favorite for fun. Why not? We
Okay.
very rarely do favorite for fun.
For favorite for fun,
I'm sorry. Joe may need to append his.
it's okay. I kind of like the theory that Al and his buddy Mr. Cameron had, where they were lost in time, because it makes me think. There's been a number of movies of military men from the 40s who go into the freezer cooler and wake up in the 80s.
Oh,
and,
you mean Captain America?
yeah, stuff like that. And he's saying that. I think it's Al was saying that he had no recollection of ever working at the Montauk project, and then people who knew the project. I might be misremembering the person. It might not be Al.
I can't remember either. There was
Somebody who said somebody who said they had no memory of working at Montauk, and then people who worked there were like, "Hey, totally recognize you." No, I don't know you, until to the point that he got really upset, and then suddenly the memories started coming back.
That was the guy who said there were microchips in his brain.
Is that who said that?
I don't remember his name, but yeah.
Oh, see, I couldn't remember if it was him or the guy who could make things materialize.
I think
with
it
his
was
mind.
microchip dude. That might even be the same person. For all
Because
I can remember, I got to be honest.
Then you're living a double life. It's pretty awesome.
On accident,
Yeah, it's kind of a Neo situation.
that would
Red pill or the blue pill.
or both. You know,
Just took them both.
Why
So
not?
we're just gonna mix them. See what happens.
just have fun.
Wouldn't that be a weird way for the movies to go? The Matrix. If he was like, I'll just take them both.
I'll wake up inside the Matrix, but forget everything I ever knew.
Constant.
What about the? So which pill was it? The red pill where he goes down the rabbit hole?
Yes.
So yeah, what if he'd taken the blue pill? Dum, dum, dum. There's the end of the roll.
Rolls credits. Yeah.
No, the next hour and a half is him in his office, just working.
Just coding.
Or no, it's like he's going about his business, and he keeps running into what's his name?
Morpheus.
Yeah, he keeps running into Morpheus, and Morpheus says, "Are you sure you don't want to take the red pill?" And
Dude,
it's like,
why are you always trying to give me drugs?
He's
Are
at
you
the
trying to get me
Starbucks.
fired? I got to take a pee test tomorrow.
No, he's at the Starbucks, and suddenly Morpheus sits down, and he's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" You again." Actually, that's a movie that needs to be made.
I think this is awesome.
I was just going to say that my favorite theory is Nikola Tesla, but I guess the
That's
Matrix
pretty
is
cool.
more interesting.
No, I like Tesla. but
I like
he's a
that
vampire.
Tesla was the director of operations there.
Yeah, Tesla pops up in a lot of stuff.
I like the director. Yeah, the director of operations. Like that's a very specific. Like they weren't like, hey, he was in charge of the place. They're like, this was his job title. It was director of operations, not chief of operations, not COO, right? Not like CEO, not like commander in operations or
Not
whatever
sergeant
you
at arms.
call,
Yeah.
whatever you would do in the military. No, he was the director of operations.
Although you'd think
It's a very specific title.
It is,
he'd be
which
director
makes
of
me
research.
nope. Operations, which apparently facilities probably replies to, right? Or
Yeah.
reports to.
Head
But
park ranger.
I guess, director of operations, that leads some credence, right?
No, that makes the story totally credible.
Super plausible.
I got to be honest. Okay, I like the story. It's a lot of fun. Can I now say what my big problem with this project?
I guess.
It is, I think, Joe, you might have mentioned this earlier, is this story is a prime candidate for people to just chew on. And I think that this is the hard part. Is like I kept reading it, trying to find, okay, where's some credible stuff? What can I try and track down that's really real instead of these fun anecdotal things?
So that's
it's like watching, it's cracks in glass. It just keeps spreading, and you don't know where it's going.
It's confusing, and I think for a lot of these stories, you don't know if it's somebody. And maybe I've said this before. In fact, I'm sure I have. If there's not people out there, people with an impish sense of humor on the internet who copy all this stuff over and then tack on a few things like, oh, let's have somebody materialize stuff out of thin air, using just power of his mind. And then that gets copied over by other people, and
there's a bunch of books that have been written on this place. I tried to track them down at my library, but unfortunately they don't stock them. Surprisingly, but I was really disappointed because I wanted to try and read some of this stuff to see what sources. Because Al, when I was listening to him, his sources were a friend in the government. A friend that I know, a friend in the military,
guy driving a taxi,
which is just not a credible source.
Not really,
and it's really difficult to get a good handle on it.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I attacked this story the way that I did,
which is probably the best way to do it.
With this whole, there's this one kind of anecdotal thing that you can't. I mean, there's no hard evidence for.
There's no hard evidence for any
of it, but at least there's some stories from, it seems, different points of view, and whether that's just like different people writing it or whatever, it seems that like at least people are lying to substantiate the evidence or the anecdotal evidence versus like one dude says, oh yeah, AIDS was there, right? One dude says, oh, by the way, Men in Black trained there. I think that, so I wanted to kind of focus on this stuff that actually has at least a little substance to it, even if it's not good science or good evidence.
I don't think any of this stuff has any substance.
I think that there has got to be truth in some of this. I'm not saying what it is. So let's say the people who got chased off by men with guns, they were probably trespassing at night, and a park ranger came out and yelled at them, and they maybe were a little inebriated or something, and they saw he had a gun on his hip because he's a ranger, and they carry guns. A dude in a gun in the dark chased us off. Like, I think that's how some of this starts, but I really, that's my biggest struggle, is I think that there's something here. I just can't pinpoint it because there's just so much fluff around it.
Right, and I guess that's the big question for me that I'm left wanting is, like, why did the government build this radar facility that was, like, obviously about to be obsolete, right? I mean, they built it and it was obsolete. Why even spend all this money at this site to do this?
They're the government. That's kind of what they do.
Well, no, you got to remember that A, they're in the middle of the war. B, they move slow, and technology is cutting edge today, but it takes us a year and a half to build this huge thing. And in that time, we've had a bunch of scientists working, and they figured out a better way to do it.
I guess
I can see how that happened.
This sort of project is like I was talking about that submarine. They spent a lot of money on that particular project. There's all kinds of stuff like that where they don't go into service because they get superseded right away by something better.
Yeah.
But they still spend a ton of money and build a bunch of stuff.
Because it takes a long time to source it. I mean, today I can say, I want to build this. I can draw it on the computer. I can send it to a vendor. A vendor can drop that plan into a machine. The machine laser cuts it out, and boom, it's done.
Yeah.
But 50 years ago, I had to draw it all by hand. I had to write out all my specs. The dude had to get it, had to figure it out, had to teach his guys how to cut it and how to file it, and it took months to make that one part.
Yeah.
That one widget took so long to make that it's understandable why these things, by the time they get them made, just are useless.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. So I guess that would be my only kind of question mark with this whole thing. But
if there is something there, that would point to one obvious thing, which is the person who's not the person, but the parties who are creating all this gobbledygook around this thing, and there's just an incomprehensible mishmash of tall tales surrounding this thing. That party would have to be the government Men in Black are the ones who are doing it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
To create confusion and
Create
chaos.
confusion and basically negate credibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well,
So the mere fact that this thing is so ludicrous must mean the government's involved. And
Yeah.
there actually
It's
is
Will
something
Smith's fault.
it is.
there. Yeah.
Welcome to Earth.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it.
Well, we solved that one quick.
Bum.
So links and pictures on the website. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can listen to us there. You can listen to this or other episodes there. You probably have just finished listening to this episode somewhere.
Or
So
maybe you didn't finish listening to it, so you're not even hearing this at all. Maybe you guys discussed it about halfway through.
So if you don't listen to it there, you can check us out on iTunes. If you do check us out on iTunes, please leave a comment and a rating. We really like getting those. I'm liking all of the Fallout references everyone's making. I appreciate that. You can also stream us directly off Stitcher if you forget to download before you head out into the wild green yonder.
Before you head over to Long Island to do some digging.
Yeah, man. You can check us out on Facebook. We have both a page that you can like and a group you can join. There's some interesting discussion that happens around there from our devoted fans. And you can, if you do go out to take a picture of these signs or you are Nikola Tesla, just send us an email. The email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you.
As much as I want Nikola Tesla to send us an email, I really feel bad for his great-grandchild who's going to have to show him how to do that. Great-grandpa, this is how you click the button to send the email.
No, Nikola Tesla
he knows.
would. Yeah. He invented the internet, probably.
Probably.
He's actually Steve Jobs, too.
Or he was Steve Jobs.
He
Now
was.
he's fake Steve Jobs.
Now he's gone. He's
Bill
moving
Gates.
to the next person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it.
Special request, any of our listeners that tend to go to military surplus auctions, and I know there's at least some of you out there, keep your eyes peeled for a titanium pyramid. It's probably
50
pick it up
foot tall.
Yeah, 50 feet tall. You could probably pick it up for $10-20.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Could be a good deal.
Yeah.
and we'll buy it back from you for twice what you pay for it.
We will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So on that note, I guess we're going to head out of here. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, toodaloo. And don't forget to tune in next week for our anniversary episode.
Bye, everybody.
Ta-ta.
Are you sure it's next week? You sure it wasn't this week?
I'm pretty sure it's this week. We missed it, guys.
Unless the space-time bubble burst, I think we're okay.
That's
it.
what it was.
That's the problem.